What's your if you go low, it'll go lower moment? Story 1. Old boss treated me like for almost 10 years. When I got a new job in the same organization as an auditor, I ran an audit on her unit since I knew where the skeletons were buried. My new boss enjoyed the show BC they knew and hated my old supervisor. Story 2. I had a coworker, not a main office worker or director, take it upon herself to figure out ways for our daycare chain to save money. Her solution was to cut my hours from 40 a week down to 30. Full-time at my daycare is 32 hours. She said she was going to call our main office with her plan because it's the most cost-effective and better as a whole. When I told her I would lose all my benefits and cannot survive on 30 hours a week, she said, "Not my problem. And it's not the company's problem. We need to save money, game on." That night, I drafted a professional proposal for saving money. The key point would be eliminating her position altogether. I pointed out what she actually does all day and how, since she doesn't perform a vital function, her position being eliminated saves the company over $2,000 a month. I turned one into the director the next day, saying if she tries to screw with my job, in bringing this to the main office. My coworker found out after she began taunting me about calling, so I showed her a copy of the proposal I did. She ripped it up, screaming I have no right. I shrugged and pulled out another copy from my bag and told her I had more at home, plus the director had one to turn in. She began crying, saying she needed this job and she couldn't be unemployed. I replied, "Not my problem, and it's not the company's problem. We need to save money." She dropped the matter, but my director kept the proposal on file for several years, just in case she got any more ideas. Don't screw with me. Story 3. On a new team, I had helped a fellow lead manager out a lot, hoping he would spin up and pull his own weight. He had a part in getting me demoted, so I decided to stop doing his job and focus on my own. He didn't like that and complained to my manager and demanded a meeting to discuss my lack of cooperation. So I spent a few hours compiling a 35-page report complete with screenshots and other receipts detailing how much the team and I did his job in addition to our own. Got it to my manager in time for the meeting, which the guy called off. The guy was fired the next week. Story 4. At university, when the 4 men I lived with didn't pay their internet bill to me on time, ID, put child safe on and block there. More recently, when pregnant, if anyone patted my belly, ID pat theirs in return. Story 5. If I'm standing in a line that's moving slowly and someone keeps standing too close behind me, I'll move backwards like I'm stretching or doing something and purposely bump into them. I'll keep doing it as long as they do until they get the point. Most has been 3 times before they finally backed off. Story 6. A girl used to cheat off me all of 9th grade science class. She would bully me into it. I started just not resisting. On final day, I watched the teacher pass out A and B tests and convinced her we both had a tests knowing she had a B. I let her cheat off me, nay, encouraged it. She failed and had to retake the class. Story 7. Boss that treated me like for years used the company's PPP loan that they got by fudging the books by cutting hours to buy a new car. They refused my demand to bring my pay up with other supervisors, so they got reported for PPP loan fraud. Story 8. Girl in High school was bullying me and always trying to get me in trouble, so I used to unscrew the lid of her water bottle just a tiny bit whenever she left it out so it would leak in her bag. She was so confused and changed water bottles NCLDNT figure out why it kept leaking. She also hated pennies. She was a rich holy, so I collected them and put them in her pockets, shoes, books, etc. It really freaked her out. Story 9. This was actually my mother's doing, but it helped me see that she will always have my back from a very young age. I went to a brand new school in 2nd grade, and the 2 popular girls were mean to me in the beginning. My mom booked my birthday party that year at the premier birthday party spot in my hometown. Think laser tag, bowling, put, batting cages, etc. She then sent me to school and had me give an invite to every single person except for those 2 girls, and coached me to say why would I want to invite someone who doesn't like me when they asked. Guess who started being nice to me? I know we could not afford that birthday party at the time, but my mom wanted to help me with my new school however she could. Forever grateful. Story 10. Happened a couple days ago. A new hire working at a lab stopped me, no introduction or anything, and asked me where is XS office kind of in a rude way. I was telling her well, she works at the other building and I can't remember if she is in floor 2 or floor 4 and she cuts me off and goes, "Can you just answer the question?" So I pretty much just repeated myself, but I did not add that X was on vacation. Hope she enjoyed the walk at 3 p.m. with Florida weather. Story 11. My roommates left the living room a mess, then went on a vacation not telling me when they would be back, knowing I was having a baby shower at the house that weekend which had been planned months in advance. When I say a mess I mean cans and bottles and literally trash, plates and games and cards not put back in the boxes, some clothes and shoes. I literally threw it into their already messy rooms, and when they came back they flipped. Then the next was when one of them changed the Wi-Fi password on me, which we all paid for but was in her name. I kept unplugging the router cause the electricity was in my name. Then other roommate took the thermostat off the wall cause she had the gas in her name. So then I started shutting off the breakers to their rooms since the electricity was in my name. It got so petty. I also took my shower head I bought off every time I would shower cause the thermostat was taken and all. Story 12. Decades ago had a job reading water meters. The boss frequently paid me late. Sometimes I had to drive to his house in the suburbs in my shitty car and still wait a couple of hours until he was done swimming just to get my paycheck. Then I told him I was leaving and he was surprised when I called him inquiring about my last paycheck. As if I had offered to work the last month for free, the played stupid with my check for a whole month. until he urgently needed me to take the readings again that month. He even paid me my previous and future check in advance. I went home and made up all the readings, and when he started blowing up my phone, I blocked his. Story 13. In middle school, this guy kept flicking pencils at me, so I turned around and threw a binder at him. Got a detention, but at least the guy never flicked pencils at me again. Story 14. I'm a neat freak. My house is spotless. I had a roommate who refused to clean up after themselves, wouldn't even throw out their empty beer can on the way to get a new one. Arguing got old, and I lived in a frat house in college. So game on, put all my stuff in my room, cutlery, pans, cups, etc., and just ignored their mess. My space is spotless, the rest isn't my problem. They barely made it a week before they were offering to help clean. Not clean, just help me do it. I made it clear that my space is spotless. The common area mess is all theirs. Last I heard, they're nearing a decade homeless. Story 15. A girl I went to school with spread rumors about me around the school. When it got to the point that I started skipping school to avoid her and all the parents, I ended up exposing her for cheating on the National Latin exam. I knew she was cheating in previous years but said I'd keep it secret, but when she started spreading rumors, I decided to get her back by telling the principal that she had found the answers and would memorize them. She called the people that we would get the test from and requested a version that was designed for people with learning disabilities so the questions and answers would be completely different than what she memorized. That year, I got a gold medal, and she didn't place anywhere for the awards. It was probably a little too far, but she had enough gold medals from cheating that one failed exam won't ruin her record. Story 16. Just got fired on Monday by a boss that was a piece of work. The company is a very heavily regulated company in the USA. She was on vacation and fired me while she was in Mexico. I'm curious what the ethics and compliance team is going to say. Edit: on vacation, so she didn't have a work visa, nor had informed our company that she would be working internationally. Story 17. I made a joke to my best friend about us getting old and wrinkly one day. For some odd reason, my boyfriend at the time piped up and said, "You're not that cute anyways." I said, "I look way better than you, and at least I'm not fat." He got extremely upset. But like, why did you feel the need to say that to your girlfriend? Story 18. Our HOA, which has normally been fine, must have had a very pesky agent working our neighborhood. One year I received more yard violations than I thought was possible, and I own a lawn care company. Anyway, I was tired of them. The new year comes and I submit my dues after whatever deadline they had. Yeah, my bad, but it was another 40 for the late charge. It seems the new management company was being a little predatory, so I dig into the neighborhood charter and discover it was established on April 15th. With wording that clearly stipulates that is when HOA fees would be due unless changed by committee. There was never an official change in the bylaws, and the management companies would use whichever date they wanted, usually late January. I bring this evidence to the management company along with a very persuasive letter which included legal language like on or about and indemnification, and such. Forgive me, I'm not a lawyer or anything, and wouldn't you know, they removed the fee, accepted my payment, and we haven't had any citations since. The best part was their letter asking not to have lawyers involved. And they're just a small group of volunteers, and sorry for the misunderstanding. I wasn't trying to come off as a lawyer, but I did research legal documents and tried to put as much legalese as I thought would be necessary to sound convincing. TLDR: predatory HOA got a taste of their own medicine. Story 19. In high school, I sat next to a varsity football player. He was a complete to me all the time. One day we were taking a quiz and he nudged me wanting to see my answers. I thought about it a minute and then let him. He copied all my answers. When we got the quiz back, we both failed. I completely blew the quiz because I knew my grade would recover, but his wouldn't. His failed the class and his GPA fell below the threshold he could play. I got a B in the class instead of an A. I have no regrets. Story 20. An old coworker was a real misogynistic, egotistical, treated me like I was an idiot. One day I realized there was a recorded call where he was ranting about our boss. The recorded calls were rarely monitored, but on my last day I sent the call recording to my boss. Needless to say, he's no longer with the company. Story 21. I worked at a retail store and we would have this customer that came in that was incredibly rude, entitled, and arrogant. He would argue about prices, try to get discounts, return things after he used them, and condescended down to us constantly. He happened to come in when we were about to close and I was the supervisor on duty. One time he came in drunk came up to me and started arguing with me about something. I could immediately smell the whiskey on his breath. I told him that he was intoxicated and I wouldn't be engaging with him any further. He became furious and started yelling, so I left the store. And when I did, I grabbed a post-it note and a pen, went outside, and wrote down his license plate. I came back in and said, "If you do not leave the premises immediately, I am calling the police and telling them that you are drunk and that you are trespassing. I know you drove that white pickup truck right there," I pointed to it. "I know you are over the limit, and I wrote down your license plate. GZ, I don't give a how much money you spend here. If I find out that you complained to customer service or tried to get me fired, I will tell my company that you were drunk and you threatened me with a gun, and I will ask the cops to press charges. And I will have witnesses back me up. Get thee out of here and never come back." The guy stared at me. He was floored. He made a no face and then meekly left. I never saw him again. Story 22. I'm a horse trainer. We have more patience than anyone. Sometimes we have to sit still for an hour without moving or making eye contact in order to make progress with a traumatized animal. If you think you can outweight me, or come into my space without an invitation in any way or situation, you won't. I will starve to death or freeze to death before I give up an inch of ground. Story 23. I haven't done it yet, but my landlord is trying to get us out by not fixing vital issues, like a toilet, chipping paint, and now the 24-year-old AC. I've called the local county clerk on him twice, and am crafting a long list of wear and tear maintenance issues we haven't complained about because we've lived here 23 years. I plan to tell him they're his responsibility to fix, and when we leave, he's not going to get a dime of the security deposit for them. Then when I'm out, in putting him on blast online, I've done SEO marketing, and he's in an age range where he doesn't realize what social presence can do for a landlord. I hope to block anyone from doing business with him for a long time. Story 24 years ago, I used to be a server in a restaurant. When it was busy and I was clearly running my off, any rude way that a customer would try to get a hold of me, I'd just do the exact same thing back to them. My favorites were snapping my fingers at people while they were snapping, and whistling at people who whistled at me. All while prancing up to the table with a big sarcastic customer service smile in my face. Story 25. My boyfriend of 16 months took another woman on a date, then dumped me that night. In less than a week he told her he loves her and wants to be official. His Spotify was still logged into my phone. I deleted every liked song, every podcast, every playlist. I added a bunch of songs about being a piece of. Sometimes when he's listening to music, he'll add songs to his queue, K-pop and Polish hits. I signed him up for information from a bunch of online colleges, the military, lending club, insurance marketplace. There's also a website where you can get a wake-up call, at any time you want, like 3 a.m. Story 26. When I'm standing in a line and someone gets too close from behind, I deliberately stand still for an extra long time and leave a small gap in front of me, just to annoy the person behind me. Story 27. There was a dirtbag guy at work. He did maintenance and HVAC and had a reputation for being a huge. One of my male coworkers received news that his mother had died, and that dude started berating him for crying at work, not knowing the cause. He was a slippery dude though, and HR didn't get rid of him. He also yelled racial slurs at a TV in a very crowded break room. They still didn't get rid of him. A few people that had the misfortune of working with him told us that he hated pennies. Huge disdain for them for some reason, so I started saving. I gathered pennies for a few weeks, my own collection, and then a few of my coworkers gave me their collections as well. On my last day working for that place, I went and found his maintenance cart while he was on break, and I filled every nook and cranny of that thing with pennies. From what my friends told me, any time he pulled a tool out for a job after that, it would be followed by a small handful of pennies falling all over the floor, and he never figured out who did it. He eventually got fired for drinking on the job, which is the same reason he was fired from a previous job on a military base. So the trash took itself out. Story 28. My cheating narcissist ex messaged my mom on LinkedIn after we broke up in an attempt to undermine me and control the narrative. He discussed details about our intimate life. It was creepy, embarrassing, and violating. Few months later, I was happy to reach out to and hop on a 2-hour call with his new girlfriend with a laundry list of all of the horrible things he'd done to me and his exes. Story 29. I had a girl cheat off me in 6th grade. I complained to my mom, who told the teacher, who told her, yeah, I'm waiting for cheater to realize it's wrong on her own. I did my homework and all tests in code, if it was multiple choice, and the answer was A, I'd put C or something similar. If it was a written answer, I'd skip it till later. As soon as I got home for homework or she turned in her test for test quizzes, I'd furiously erase my answers and put the right ones in. Story 30. My current boss makes 6 figures, delegates everything, been here and reminds everyone 8 years but knows nothing, and I mean nothing, because hell always have someone just do it or figure it out for him. Has someone we pay to do a lot of his jobs, so we're even double dipping. I've never seen anything like it. Well, now he has no choice because someone left and he needs to cover it, of course, but paying the person that just left money to train the new person and do the work still. In the meantime, he doesn't even tell a new person to answer the GD phone. Now you call and need something that he deals with, send him to his VM, I take no messages. Anyone that comes to the counter, boom, I get him. I purposely go out of my way to not help him in the slightest bit. We're also union and he hasn't helped and has made it wicked uncomfortable as far as negotiations for the past 5 months. There's 2 of us and these knuckleheads can't even give us pennies in good faith. Never goes to bat for us, even though we do it all. If we left tomorrow, he would completely fail. Story 31. Not me but my husband. He was HR at a major grocery retailer. His store manager was a horrible person. He hated my husband once he found out how much money he made. For some reason, my husband is a very lovable man. Nearly everyone he meets loves him, especially old ladies. Anyway, this boss treated him like absolute dog. So bad, my husband went to the ER because he thought he was having a heart attack, at 26. Turns out it was an anxiety attack, but this boss repeatedly tried to get my husband fired, and tried his hardest to get him to leave his position, and then the boss committed fraud by not paying an employee. My husband reported it, and the boss got fired. My husband also switched stores, and loved his new boss. They're great friends now, even though my husband changed career paths within the company. The boss had to retire but went back to work elsewhere. Eventually he got back with the company, but in a lower position. LOL. Story 32. Job I had left me completely alone to keep the entire production team operating by myself. I was so stressed and overwhelmed, I just walked out mid-shift. No given. Story 33. Cheated on me after 5 years and I found out less than 24 hours later. I took back the car that hadn't been in her name yet. I kept the cats. I told all of my friends, which were her friends by proximity, what she had done. She got left with nothing except a new boyfriend and lived with her sister with no car, no anything. She has a kid now with him, and then they broke up. Side note, she broke into my house just to sleep in my bed and I reluctantly let her, then locked the windows. I know I'm too kind to people who hurt me, but my love language is seeing others happy and I was vulnerable. Story 34. If someone interrupts me, starts talking over me, I'll continue talking, louder without pause. This took some practice, but luckily I had a bunch of friends and family that do it constantly, but with the same tone and inflection until the other person stops, and if they do, I return to normal volume and not even acknowledge it. When we both finish talking, I just stare at them and wait, then ask, so what do you think? Story 35. There is a bar next to my house that closed after the pandemic, but the space is rented out for private parties. The parties are every weekend and they are very loud. I once managed to connect to their speaker via Bluetooth and played my choice of music. I doubt anyone had any fun. I only managed to do it once, but it was worth it. Story 36. In my 20s, I was at a church summer camp convention where they had rules on what women could wear in the pool, and even on pool days, any swimsuit had to be covered with a shirt, but not a white shirt. Note, these were not venue rules, and were stricter than even just the general church modesty rules. So as someone who liked to make a point about the church controlling what women wear, and because they got specific about what shirt I couldn't wear, I found the loophole and wore a black, completely lace netting shirt over my swimsuit all day. I think it was my intro to malicious compliance, and I've since left the church. Story 37. Longest term ex was obsessed with being a victim. It was one of our most consistent fights. She'd scream at me over not insisting she was owed an apology over an imagined slight. I'm a repeat abuse victim, and she'd compare me not exploring her kinks to me being molested. Eventually, it was full-blown hitting, stealing thousands from me because frankly, for driving me places my eyes don't work and for being willing to have with me, she deserves it, stuff like that. When I finally managed to get free from her, it was maybe 3 weeks before she logged onto Facebook for the first time in years too. Made a lengthy post about surviving an abusive relationship by pretending to be happy so she wouldn't get it at home. 3. Used examples of the things she did to me, but said I did them to her. She didn't realize that even though I marked myself as single, we were still friends. She thought I blocked her, but I just didn't talk to her anymore. I could see it, the wounds were raw, and I wanted to turn the other cheek. Then the comments started coming in, about how they could always tell I was an abuser. She was so brave, she should tell her story. I don't deserve a future. I waited until she went to bed like clockwork, 2 a.m., and dumped about 8 years worth of screenshots in the comments of the horrid things she'd messaged me at work. Everything from her hoping I finally give in to the suicidal thoughts to her talking about how she only drinks so she can numb herself from how stupid her friends are to making sure I don't take my shirt off at the gym until the bruises fade. She's so sorry, by the way. She was just a little too drunk. I ended it by saying, women like you are why people don't believe women. Good luck with your future in victims advocacy. And I tagged her mentor at a women's crisis center. Woke up to a few hundred notifications, mostly accusing me of Photoshop. A fair amount of LMAO. After 8 years of not liking me, her dad became a good friend for standing up to her. I truly do hope she's got her life in order in the years since. I just have long since stopped caring what happens to her. I sure have my together, but I'm trying. Story 38. I can't think of any spectacular examples, but this is unfortunately my personality. If someone doesn't like you, may as well give them a reason. I recently had a coworker give me the silent treatment. I was kind of over her attention seeking and drama, so you thought, you know what, yeah, and we haven't said a word to each other in 5 months. Something my coworker friend did that involved me slightly. I used to order the groceries for our work kids every week to cover snacks and breakfast. I noticed that every week, I couldn't seem to find certain items or that the number of them was off. I swore to my staff that I had ordered enough, but clearly something happened with the order. At the same time this was happening, we had issues with a new staff member who was also a student who needed to complete field work for their diploma. The way they treated the children and their work ethic wasn't there. Conversations were had with the staff in question, but nothing changed. My coworker decided to take it higher up to get something done about the staff. During a meeting with my coworker, the staff in question, and our higher up, the staff decided to try to deflect the issues as my coworker being a racist rather than about the staff's performance. My coworker gently explains that she isn't a racist and is upset by the lie that she is to deflect from the staff's poor performance. She then goes on to explain how this staff had been the one stealing the groceries from work to feed her own children, and when my coworker realized, offered to buy her groceries and then did so her children could have something to eat. She explained she didn't want to say anything as it would cause the staff to lose her job and possible chance at a diploma if she said anything. So instead she helped her. The staff proceeded to lose their job and failed placement due to this. Needless to say, being falsely accused of being a racist was hers. Story 39. This requires intro since it's family. My mother's side of the family are country club. Mother is also abusive. CPS investigated her while I was in kindergarten and nearly pulled me out of the home, but those people knew exactly which hoops to jump through and had the money to work the system. Dad rescued me by filing for divorce as soon as a family court judge would take my custody preference seriously. You know how people tell children, you'll understand when you're older. Well, older arrived and she got worse. Went through a rough patch where I was hospitalized several times, culminating in major emergency surgery due to a misdiagnosed medical condition. Mother didn't care if I lived or died. She told her side of the family I was exaggerating about my health. Then despite the divorce she played head games with my father while he had incurable cancer. From the time I was a high school honors student onwards, one of her favorite taunts were threats to cut me out of her will. I replied that what she did with her money was her own business. In spite of that, every few weeks or months she'd renew the threats again. Eventually she escalated to claiming she was pretty sure she'd got me cut out of everyone else's will too. Everyone else on that side of the family covers up for her because they expect me to become her end-of-life caregiver eventually. They turned a blind eye to her abuse and were aghast when I moved in with Dad. Cue pearl clutching. A child's place is with its mother. End-of-life care was something I was glad to provide for the only real parent I ever had. During Dad's terminal illness I stopped talking the pack of jerks. The general outlines of the above are in my user history. What follows is the part 1 haven't mentioned before because it wasn't relevant until this thread. Then a great uncle died and left me something in his will. My portion could be a life-changing sum to some people, yet it's a trivial amount to that family. Just as the will gets read, the economy tanks, stocks went into a nosedive. Then my lawyer mentioned something interesting: the will's distribution is waiting on my signature. My lawyer got letters and calls from the pack of jerks and their counsel, asking me to sign off. Communications became increasingly urgent. The rest of them say how nice it will be for me to get money, I just have to sign. Great uncle's estate took a hit in the bear market. Eventually the other relatives worked around my non-cooperation. But by then the damage was done. They're still comfortable, but these are people who grasp at every cent. The delays cost each of them more than I would have received. That was the best $5,000 I ever didn't spend. Had a dotted line boss who was a whiny, would always break things or say the opposite whatever he said for a week to score points. I made a tool to automate his job, trained him etc. He messed it up. I ignored all his emails and calls etc. He copies my boss etc. I ignore him too until the next weekly meeting. He starts trash talking etc. I let him speak and then show the new system shows a stamp on who made what changes. Pause for a few seconds and he says, well, I should have trained him better. Story 40 got bullied horrifically by this one chick at Catholic all-girls school. She was super Catholic and took it very seriously, and her dream was to be the Catholic club president. The nun in charge of it however loved me and I convinced her to choose me instead. BTW, am openly not Catholic. Trolled the out of that club. Bully was violently pro-life and I accidentally donated our fundraiser funds to Planned Parenthood. Mistakenly got the dates wrong for when we were supposed to take a trip up to Cleveland for the pro-life march. Submitted concept art for the hoodies we were trying to sell that read Jesus is dab and depicted well Jesus hitting the dab. Convinced none to approve it and explained dab as a slang term for holy. Ran that club into the ground. Made 4 years of kind of worth it, you know. Story 41. So I live somewhere with a communal kitchen with a freezer in use for other people. I have a small freezer nearby, labeled with my name and all. For the past few months, I noticed that the other people started using my freezer temporarily because theirs was full and it would only be for a short while, say a week or so, and then their stuff in my freezer would be gone. The thing is, they didn't ask me beforehand if I was okay with basically losing 2/3 of my freezer space. Had they asked, I would have absolutely said they could use one of the 3 drawers in there, but they just didn't ask. The first time they let me know about the situation later that day as an afterthought, and it annoyed me still, but okay sure, the next time it happened, they never talked to me at all. So I checked their freezer, saw plenty of space left, and just chucked all of their stuff in there and it barely fit. The next day I heard someone else say that it was really difficult to open that freezer. I chimed in and said, oh yeah, that was me, and basically explained very clearly that if they wanted to act this way, then I will mirror it in the exact same way. Do with it what you will. A week later, they ordered and installed an entire extra freezer because simply asking is apparently too much. Story 42 worked as an ESL teacher overseas. Boss was a nightmare and constantly held my checks when he was mad at me. When I left, I deleted all of my lesson plans and PPT games I made for the kids so their new teacher couldn't use them. A year later they stopped offering English classes at that school. Story 43. Someone raising their voice at me and screaming over unimportant moments or perceived slights that are insecure projections. I had so many moments growing up where an intoxicated adult was putting me down and screaming at me because of something fully out of my control. Now I'm a grown man, and if someone tries to pull that, my 66 is matching energy and making them feel small as. Story 44. Being a quiet person. People don't seem to understand. I watch, take note of, and document everything that's happening around me. I don't write things down, just file it away honestly, not even purposely. It's just how it's always been. Nothing gets deleted with any message system. Pretty much do me wrong, it'll do way worse. Story 45. When I was about 17, my ex's new girlfriend spread half-naked pictures of me. She thought I was after her boyfriend, which I wasn't. To get to me she had with a friend of mine. He also had half-naked pictures of her. I got them in my possession. After that I sent a letter to the girl's parents with the pictures attached. I told them the whole story in detail. Story 46. Someone sues our company over a dubious claim of violating the Consumer Protection Act. In the phone call they had with our CSR, they claimed to be a lawyer. When it finally went to court, they lied under oath about what was said during the phone call, just before the court played the phone call. We asked them to confirm that they are indeed a lawyer. It turns out they aren't a lawyer, but are studying to become a lawyer. The judge wasn't impressed with their answer, as you can imagine. I then referred the case to the bar, which was added to their record. Story 47. Neighbors had anti-abortion signage in their yard. For over a year they'd parked dilapidated untagged vehicle in street. The Monday after Roe v. Wade was overturned I called them into code enforcement and they were ticketed and forced to move the vehicle. If they want government in women's business, then the government can be in their business. Story 48 in high school. Some girls were laughing at the way I was sitting ill, not sure why, and I slowly turned around and said, "Would you like to take a picture?" with the biggest creepiest smile on my face. I know I'm still on their mind. Story 49 Health insurance decided to away coverage for my expensive antidepressant that was keeping me sane. I sent a letter warning them of suicide if I can't take it and my family would sue for wrongful death. Coverage reinstated a week later. Story 50 My mom, who had always had a penchant for saying hurtful and hand-waving it away with, "You know I love you," her going low moment she told me. And this is a quote, "I don't mean to be but you're being really annoying right now." This was after I tried to comfort her by squeezing her hand after she elected to stop treatment for her lung cancer, which was caused by her smoking 2 packs a day for over 50 years. After putting up with those types of comments my whole life, my going lower moment was when she finally realized I was angry at her, 12 hours later, to respond, "You always say you don't mean to be but you've never stopped doing it. You don't care how what you say affects people, and what you said earlier made me realize you don't care about me either." Her response was, "You know I love you, right?" And my response was, "No, I don't." She asked if I was going to stay and visit any longer. I said no. And those were the last words I ever spoke to her because she died 2 weeks later, and I don't regret it at all.